All right, we're opening up the mailbag, and we've got a question here from Rose Marie. I like that name, Janine. Rose
Yep.
Marie. That's kind of pretty. Do you like dual names like that?
Yeah, some of them work. Rosemary is, I think, an older name.
Yeah, kind of
Or
cool.
used to be popular.
Yeah, I like that one.
So,
All right, so Rose Marie, how much is too much to spend on our forever home? We're going to move in a couple of years when we retire, and my husband wants to buy a house that's cheaper than our current home so that we can avoid having a mortgage in retirement. But this is going to be the place where we live for the rest of our lives, so I want it to be perfect. Who is right?
well, this is where I hang up my family counselor shingle.
That's right. Yes. Yes. Put that cap on.
Yep. There is no right or wrong answer. It really there are a lot of things you have to talk through, because he's looking at it from, okay, we're going from this much income and we're going to have this much income, and so we don't want more expenses than we can handle, because you don't want to go to sleep at night feeling you're being choked because your expenses are so high.
Yeah. Who wants to live in retirement like that?
Yeah. So, if it's going to be a forever home, there are things about the home that you might want to have that are important to you. But, is it really the big home? Is it the location of the home? Are you going to have any acreage? Are you going to live in a neighborhood? Are you going to have an expensive HOA? Do you really want the Karens next door? There are a lot of questions there. What kind of neighborhood do you want to live in? There are points to be made on both sides of that question. I typically get people to, first, you have to go back, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and figure out what your lifestyle is going to cost.
Yeah.
And then what can you handle comfortably? Because what's going to happen over time? Inflation. So costs are going to go up. And can you handle that with how you're structuring your income so that you will be able to afford the house? Now, a lot of people will take, and this is happening now, I'm going to sell this house, take the income or take the proceeds and go put it in the next house, and I'm going to pay my house off. Whether or not that's a good decision or not is worth a conversation. With interest rates being where they are, that might make sense. When interest rates were 2.5%, 3%, maybe not. Because liquidity becomes really important, because there are other things that happen in retirement you might need liquidity for. So, spending what makes the house your forever home. Mm-hmm. And I think you really have to have a pretty honest conversation about that and then work backwards.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a negotiation, and you're going to have to compromise.
You're not going to get everything you want, just like in a normal home purchase, but there is that extra consideration in retirement. I think about it this way, being a non-retiree and not really on that horizon, but trying to put myself in the shoes of someone like my parents, who are literally, mom just put her notice in and is working out her final notice, and they're getting ready to move to Maine. And they're starting their retirement literally within the next couple of weeks. Dad's actually there as we were recording this right now, Janine, looking at a house. The one finally popped up. They've looked at hundreds over the last couple of months, have made a few offers. Things have fallen through a couple times on the seller side or got outbid. So they're in that zone of just trying to find that right home. And they're seeing the same thing. Mom doesn't really want a mortgage. Dad's okay with it because he's like, we're going to live here for a long time, but she wants more headroom to go and visit us out in Colorado and go visit family and do other stuff. And so they're having all these same battles. And yeah, Dad's like, well, a smaller house makes sense because it's just the two of us and we don't need a big house. But I like a nice property, so trying to balance those two competing features. And at the same time, I still want to have a place to get away and go work on my art and do my own thing every once in a while. So it's an interesting battle trying to figure out all of those different things. But the thing I try to have some empathy for is, in your working years, you feel okay extending sometimes, right? Because you're like, I can always work harder, or I expect to make more in the future. So not saying that's a wise decision to always make, go extend yourself on the promise that you're going to extend, but you at least have that reasonable possibility of, I'll go pick up more work, I'll do X, Y, and Z. But in retirement, the goal's not to go back to work for most people. So yeah, you're kind of like, okay, I'm locking into this lifestyle for the rest of my life. And that does change that home equation maybe a little bit.
It does. And there's another big component to this. When you're in your 60s and perhaps early to mid 70s, it's a different ball game depending on your health from when you're in your 80s and then maybe 90s. And how much family is where you're planning to have your forever home. Because I think one of the hardest things is what kind of support is going to be there for you, because it's making it like you're in Colorado and parents are looking at Maine. I mean, I'm in Ohio and I have kids all over the country, and we're like, okay. And I said this to my husband the other day, I really like where we are, but I don't know if we can stay here because kids and grandkids that are coming along, and I'd like to be closer to them. Now, I know you can't chase your kids across the country or across the world in some
or especially
cases.
when they're all spread out, you're not actually ever close to any of them, even if you pick the midway point, right?
Right. But you really need to stop and consider that. And I mean, Colorado's beautiful. Why are they moving to Maine? Not to hit on your dad at all, but it's just kind of Maine's gorgeous. So is Colorado. So, what kind of family is around that you might need is around, or, because when you hit your 70s, if you move again, that's your last move, most likely.
In most cases, unless it's then moving into an assisted living place or whatever.
Right. And so my parents have been in their house for nearly 50 years in Oregon. They absolutely refuse to move.
Yeah.
So I'm schlepping back quite often to, help them with things that they can't do for themselves anymore.
Right.
And, so you get help in there, but, there comes a time when, if that's important to you, you have to consider it early on before there's a time when you can't do it.
Very helpful. Thank you, Janine, for that perspective. And thanks, Rosemarie, for your question as well. I hope that gives you some good guidance. Sounds like you and the hubby need to have some more deep conversations about what you want in retirement. But meet with a financial advisor. That can help clear questions like this up. That's actually what my parents did, and it helped them realize it's okay if you find the right home to take on a mortgage. You can afford it. You don't have to have just this nebulous reason for not wanting one just because it makes you feel better. But if it gets you the kind of house that you really want to have in retirement, it's okay. You have permission to make that extension and go for it. You don't have to now go spend that much, but if you need to, you can. And that's helped them in their search a little bit. Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that you get clarity on when you meet with a qualified financial advisor. And that's Janine Theus. And so if you're listening or watching today's show and you've got any questions about your financial future and about how to properly prepare for retirement, one more time, don't hesitate to get in touch with Janine. You can get in touch by going to the website, theuswealthadvisors.com. There's a link to that in the description of today's show. And you can also call 443-718-6311. Set up a complimentary visit with Janine and go through anything that might be on your mind. Well, hey, thanks for listening to the podcast and watching us on YouTube if you're consuming there. I want to take a quick time out from the show today to talk about a great resource that might help you plan for retirement and your financial future. If you're not ready for a one-on-one conversation with an advisor, maybe this is a good first step to get a little bit more education and guidance. Janine, you've written a great book that walks people through some of the really important questions that they need to be thinking about and asking about retirement. Tell us a little bit about what resource we have to offer people today.
So I have a book called 7 Secrets to a Smart Retirement.
Nice. I like the spy thing, by the way.
The spy thing, yeah.
Yeah,
because of one of my previous careers, collecting data. This book is not meant to be some very intellectual tome. It's amusing. We made it funny. It's some quick facts that you need to consider, if you're getting ready to retire. And we talked about some of those today in our podcast, but what are the things you really need to consider and take a look at? And can you do these yourself? Or would you like some help? Most people would opt for some help and sounding board and advice because it can get pretty complicated. So these are the 7 secrets of a smart retirement plan. And if you'd like this book, let us know.
Yeah. Can people just call or visit the website and ask for a copy? Is that the easiest way? So
all you have to do is contact us via the website, Theus, like the US, wealthadvisors.com, or you can give us a call at the office at 443-718-6311.
That's all you have to do, and you can get a copy of that book from Janine, The 7 Secrets to a Smart Retirement, and see how many you know now, and then after you read the book, you'll at least certainly know 7. And then you can go through the planning process if you feel like you're ready for that step at that point. Well, Janine, that'll wrap things up for today's edition of Rockin' Retirement. Hope you had a great show, and I hope you have a good rest of your week.
Thanks so much, Walter. Take care.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time on Rockin' Retirement, busier than ever and on a mission. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube, and we'll see you again next time.